This is something new. I had a sudden inspiration. Just boom, it hit me. Popped into my head. I was remembering when I was a little kid and my parents were out playing bridge. If you don't know, bridge is a card game. So they went to the neighbor's house. They were maybe 6 houses down, not very far. And they were gone. Everything was dark in the house. It was me, my brother, my sister. We were all alone. I'm guessing we were all probably elementary. I'm guessing my sister was maybe fifth grade. She might have been middle school by then. We didn't have a babysitter because they were just right down the road. Whole house was dark. We're all in like one room in the family room watching TV or something. And but the bathroom is on the other end of the house. It's near this bedroom. And we hear this noise. Somebody hears it and calls the rest of us and we go and we're listening. And it's this horrible sound. This sound. And we find out later it's a little toy car. And it had gotten wedged, it had fallen, and it had gotten pushed. And when you pushed it, it made a little siren sound. But it was a cheap, really tiny toy car. So the battery had run out. And so we were hearing the dying battery sound. Plus, it was muffled. It was horrifying. I mean, we were sure there was a monster, there was an alien. I mean, we thought there was something in that room that was going to rip us all to shreds. So I was thinking about that. That's my inspiration. And for whatever reason, I thought that could make a good story. I immediately had the idea of that little toy car. A little toy car got wedged between the desk and wall in a dark house at night. My parents were out playing bridge. My siblings and I thought we were going to be ripped apart by an alien or monster. I mean, we were so scared. I mean, I was really scared. So I was thinking about that. I was thinking about how scary that was. And when things like that pop into my head, I start picking it apart and I start thinking, well, what should I? Is that interesting? That could be a story. Maybe I write something about my myself. Maybe it's a true story about being scared, and I'm scared now. What am I scared of now? How has it changed? I was thinking along the lines of nonfiction, and swiveled, pivoted very quickly to what if that were real? What if it really were some kind of alien or monster? And then I had a story, but I thought, that could be a really short story. That could be really quick. Um, I always write really long things, so I wanted to try and do something that was short. I thought, oh, this could be really short. So the end, I had the beginning and I had the end. The beginning is hearing that noise. I've never forgotten the fear of that noise. Let's make everything about the same size. I like 13 when I'm streaming. That seems like a good size. Let me organize for a second. We got our inspiration, and then this is the story. Let's do that. You know, it's a little pet peeve. It's such a tiny little thing, but having the underline beneath the colon bugs me. I keep seeing it and it bugs me. Okay. So I have the first line. I've never forgotten the fear of that noise. Something along those lines. I'm going to try and move really quickly through this. I'm not going to agonize over it, pick it apart too much. I want to just literally do a first draft and then go back and edit it quickly and just have something and be done with it. It doesn't have to be, this doesn't have to be long. Part of the inspiration, I would also say, for this is creepy pasta stories, which are often very short. For example, Reddit. I've I've been on there and I've read some creepy pastas before. I think it's fun to, especially when they're really really short. How quickly can you creep somebody out in just a few words and a few lines? The house was dark. Um, why was that room dark? Why didn't we turn on a light? That's what I don't understand. We should have turned on a light. I'm trying to remember back to that experience. No, I know why. Because if there was something in there, we didn't want it to know that we were that we were out there. Um, I turned on the lights in every other room of the house, but didn't dare touch the switch outside my bedroom door. Light might banish some monsters, but for others, it would only help to identify me as a target. I can't think of a simple way to write that, and I'm not worried about it. I mean, I was thinking about like Spotlight or it would only make me easier to see, to catch, to devour. I love repetition. To see, to catch, to devour. That can be changed if I don't like it. Um, my sister was in the other room on the phone, pleading for our parents to come home. Home. Um, they were only 4 houses down. That would be might as well have been in another state. In a race between My dad and the thing in the dark, it would win. I mean, language. If I'm gonna write something creepy and scary, then you really have to be careful about the language. Uh, I, I hold to the idea that giving something a name gives it power. Um, or what is it? Knowing something's name gives it power, right? But for horror, if you give something a name, uh, it depends on the name that you give it, right? If you give it just the right name, then you give it more power to scare you. But look at Stephen King's It. It's called It. We don't know what it is. I like horror movies where you don't necessarily see the monster. You just see the aftermath. I mean, think about the very first Alien movie. You know, you don't clearly see the alien. You just get glimpses. I mean, it is truly horrifying. And then to actually see the alien, and it's just as bad as what you're imagining. I actually kind of don't like that they're called the xenomorphs. That sounds so scientific and clinical. It doesn't it's not as scary. Predator. That's a great name for a monster. Same sort of cinematic universe, right? Mystery. The unknown breeds fear. And the thing in the dark, it would win. Now I'm thinking about something about I couldn't imagine the the I didn't need to imagine grotesqueries. Is that even a real word? That's a beautiful word. I didn't need to imagine all the horrible things that could happen. You know, spilled guts, um, sprays of blood, squelching, chomping. That could be kind of fun. Just trying to think of the most descriptive, kind of uncomfortable words. I feel squelch is an uncomfortable word. Chomp. That's kind of uncomfortable. It's not a. You don't want to hear someone chomping on their food. That's kind of gross. Smacking sounds are gross. You know, sprays of blood, spilled guts. These are very visceral. Visceral is such a nice word. If I can fit it in here somewhere. You don't need to imagine it. Um, couldn't if I'd tried. I had an overactive, imagination for the shapes of monsters and their details, the pain, the excruciating pain of my, certain death. We might repeat certainty and certain. Show them creepy images. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great creepy image. I don't want it to be super specific. Just vague enough that people can give it their own meaning. They could be dancing. Dancing's not scary though. Prancing. Prancing's okay. Cavorting. Communing. Communing is a good word. It makes you think of spirits, witches. Makes you think of maybe demons, communing with demons. A sliver of light cast a demons of shadows. Principle communing. That's not going to work here. But I want to keep that so that I don't forget. Sliver of light cast a demon's cavalcade of shadows. What's a really something violent? A good violent word. Tearing. Tearing. I'm going to put cavort down here so I don't forget it either. I mean, tearing, ripping, those uncomfortable sounds, ripping. Screaming. They wouldn't be screaming though. I don't know, cavorting. And I might change that. A sliver of light cast shadows like a demon's cavalcade. Let me do that. Cast shadows like or maybe akin to um twisted into a demon's cavalcade. Maybe communing does fit there. Communing with the creature, with the thing. I really need to pick a title for it, a name, a label, something that I can call it throughout. I mean, the first idea was a noise, right? A noise. Um, so, what are some other ways to say noise? Noise, sound, call it the frozen cell phone. But something like that, it's a good detail for a story. That's a nice little thing that you could add to a character. Um, a character who is constantly leaving their phone places. That's just one of their characteristics. They leave it in the refrigerator. That could be the culmination of a list of places, or it's something that goes throughout the whole book. And it doesn't have to be a big part of their character, but it could just be one extra little thing that makes that character feel a little bit more real. They leave it in the refrigerator. It gives other characters something to do in a scene. Instead of just being in the kitchen, they open the refrigerator and find the phone. Every time they go into a new room, they hear the phone ringing because it's been left there. So there's a lot of fun things you could do with that. So it's not a bad idea. Phones are creepy too. Phones are a part of horror, right? Think about the Scream movies, the ringing phone. Do you want to play a game? Um, the Saw movies, you have the video component. Um, phone calls. What else? What else has a good creepy? I mean, that there's the trope of the killer's calling from inside the house. Um, voice modulation, changing the voice. That's pretty creepy. Things with phone booths. There's all kinds of nice creepy stuff with phones. Matrix has the phones. That's not creepy, but you guys are sending me off on tangents. Okay, I'm trying to think of noise. Noise, sound, squeal. Yeah. See, I was trying to think of all. I had like smacking, chomping, squelching. Um, I mean, this is supposed to be. It's like a dying battery in a toy, so it's not. It's a warble, kind of a warble, which isn't a scary word, but it definitely has a. When you say it, warble. It's not easy to say. It doesn't slide off your tongue. Warble. That might be good. Well, what's the actual definition of warble? Warble meaning sing softly and with a succession of constantly changing notes. A warbling sound or utterance. A cry, a trill. Um, I'm trying to think of eating noises, especially. You know, a smacking of the lips. Crunching, grinding, chomping, grind. Grinding is not right. Squeal. Squeal's pretty close. But something that's more like discordant. Discordant. Squeal. Off key. Off key. I've got this story on my mind and I don't know how it got there. I want to call it the Forbidden Calzone. And I imagine this old grandma suffering from mental difficulties like dementia. And she makes her family this big calzone with a bunch of random deli meats way in the back of the fridge. But then later on, everyone gets horribly sick because the meats were expired. Hence, the Forbidden Calzone. Okay. Um, I thought you were going to go a completely different route with that. Um, as soon as you said Forbidden Calzone, I thought of, uh, I think, I mean, maybe the very first season of The Simpsons. It's one of the very early seasons, the House of Horror, the Treehouse of Horror. Uh, Homer sells his soul for a donut, but he doesn't eat the final piece of the donut because as long as he doesn't eat that piece, then he won't have to go to hell. So it's a forbidden donut. And I'm pretty sure when he takes that final bite, he's like, forbidden donut or something. He says something. That's what I thought of. A calzone that you're forbidden to eat because uh, my mind always goes to fantasy. So I start thinking of fantasy things. It's going to transport you to another world. It's going to turn you into a monster. Man, Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I haven't watched that for a long time. Yeah. Homer sells soul for donut. So it was season 4. Yeah. Forbidden donut. Forbidden donut. There you go. He has all these notes. Don't eat. Stop. Don't touch. Keep away. Daddy's soul donut. Oh man, that's a good one. I've been thinking about that a lot lately because I was watching Disenchantment, which is also by Matt Groening, and a lot of parts of it take place in hell. And I see connections between that season 4 episode of Treehouse of Horror and Disenchantment. And I mean, we're talking 20 years apart, but there's still connections to that episode. Discordant squeal. Um, Unpleasant. I hate doing this. I don't really like to do searches. Like I don't want to go to ChatGPT and ask it for information or help with writing. I don't really want to do searches. I want to exercise my brain. I want to keep it sharp. If I do searches, I'm worried my brain's going to get lazy. Um, really? Applause, baby laughing, thunder, water flow. No, those are pleasant and unpleasant. Knife on a bottle. Oh yeah, that sort of screeching, that whining sound. Wine's actually not bad. Wine would be good. There we go. And I didn't actually see it. And I also want to use discordant if I can. It's between the range of what's familiar. It's just slightly wrong. Yeah, maybe. That's just an idea. A wine could be good. I think it evokes the fact that the child that this is about a young man. So whining babies, animals whine. Um, that might work. That might work. I mean, what's the actual? Okay, I'm doing too much. What are you doing? Whine meaning a long, high-pitched complaining cry. Yeah, it's a complaining sound. Whimper, mule, that might work. Mule or groan. I don't want to growl. Moan might work. Moan or mule. Mule meaning. Mm, moan. I think moan might be good. I'll do moan, just to be done with it. The certainty that I was going to die. Might as well have been in a race between my dad and the moan. It would win. I'm just replacing. I have no. So now I'm trying to work on images. A sliver of light casts shadows, like a demon's cat communing with the moan. The moan. I thought I copied it. Okay. Um. I want to keep that first sentence right here, right, all by itself. I've actually been favoring this sort of brown color. I don't know why. This sort of gold. Ooh, yellow, golden text. I'll make it blue because that's easier on the eyes. I've never forgotten the fear of. I don't want to say that moan. I want to say the moan. It's singular. The moan. Um, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not happy with these details. I haven't. I mean, I haven't given the sound yet, right? I've got. That's gonna have to. That's gonna have to go. Everything's gonna have to move around. Any other shapes other to be furniture could be the most true shape. Twisted by night's glow. Um, my own shaking, constantly ducking just far enough past the door frame to see into the room, then jerking back to safety. I like that image, peeking around the door. If you only expose part of your body, then you're safe. Um, Doing that is giving an inconsistent experience. That's an idea that I can play around with. The the view is moving. Fleeting glances. No time for the mind to sort of understand. No time for the mind to wrestle. That's good. Wrestle uh, shapes into some kind of familiar patterns. These are all just things I can play around with when I come back and rewrite. I just need to get some images down. The sound too. The moan, grew, elongated, unfolded. We want to give it characteristics of bats, of snakes, uncoiling, things that are creepy, things that creatures would do. Um, what is it? What did lions do? They pounce, right? Before they pounce, they I guess they just get ready to pounce. There's not a special name for that. They squat. They stalk. Stalk. That's good. Stalk. Pounce. These are all good words. Things need to have like the mo needs to have the qualities of a predator, something that's preparing to attack, that's going to attack, that's capable of attacking. Each time I dared I don't like dared. Um, that's good. I'll end that thought. Um, there's not going to be any smells, right? Sounds, sights, the feelings, shaking, um, maybe gripping something. Uh, and now I'm trying to decide if I even want to. Do I want this to be a toy or do I want it to be some kind of monster? So I don't think I'm going to do this in one single sitting. There's no way. I was sure. I was so pumped up on coffee earlier. I was sure that I could get this done super quick. It was all so clear. But now that I'm actually getting into it, I don't think that's going to happen. Let me move all this stuff. Yeah, the original thought was a cave, that it was going to end in a cave. Um, his anger at being bothered. So real and immediate, familiar, familiar, um, banished, fear of the moan, replaced it with concerns, with not fear, with um, apprehension, with um, uh, re- replaced the unknown with a certainty of pain. I mean, I could go really dark. The idea that I'm saved from this noise, but that the father character is going to be pissed. And because the kids have bothered him, okay, well, now we don't have to worry about this unknown fear, but now we have to worry about the fear of the angry father spanking us. I mean, I could make him abusive, but I always feel like that's kind of cliche. I mean, it's true, it's real. There are abusive fathers and abusive men, but I don't know about that. My father wasn't abusive, so I'm not really the person who should be writing about that. That's not my story to tell. Um, but I mean, I could still throw it into this really short story, this really quick thing. I mean, something really simple. Like he wasn't wearing a belt tonight. That night, I guess. But the what would he have in his hand? He just came from playing cards. Maybe he had a flashlight. But the flashlight in his hand would serve. I don't know why that pops into my head. Flashlight's too big. You can't really hit your kids with a flashlight. You would break their bones. Um, that's not gonna work. Even though it fits perfectly with him walking down the street at night. The I mean, would an abusive father hit his kids with like the wallet? I mean, his hand. He could just use his hand. Um, but his bare hands might be worse or something. Okay, that's better. I don't know why I'm making this so complicated. Because it's not, because I just don't know. I don't know what to say about that. That's not something that I had experience with. My dad would spank us, but it was relatively tame. It wasn't anything, it wasn't abusive in any way. It never felt abusive. It felt like a punishment. You did something wrong. This is your punishment. This is how it is. Whereas my stepfather's dad was abusive. And I mean, like, would take off his belt and would like whip them with it. Like he would strike them as hard as he could. And the way he described it, it sounded dark. It was coming from a very dark, violent place. It wasn't, you've done something wrong. It was, I've been drinking and I am angry about things that are not connected to you, my children, and I'm just looking for an excuse, and anything will give me that excuse. So he would use his belt on them, and I thought he said that maybe phone book once they started getting bigger. But I might just be taking that from stories of like police officers using phone books. My brain misfiring. Um, but we would survive. Um, I would survive. Probably take the sister out. Just keep it focused on the one single character. Or even though it's such a short, quick story, it could be that there's a sister. I mean, I have a sister and a brother. There could be a sister and a brother, and um, the moan could get them. Uh, that's kind of a thing that happens in horror stories. It's kind of a trope or a cliche. The idea that names are getting checked off a list, that there's an order to the killings, that there's a pattern to it. So I'll keep it. I'll keep it. Let me add a no. Um, add a brother character. Uh, See, now I'm making all the connections. A brother, um, as the I want to add a note here. I like doing these pluses instead of always doing comments. Um, as the oldest, I'd been set to watch, to be, first eaten, giving the others time to rot. There's some fun stuff I could probably do with that. When my dad came, his anger at being both so real and unfamiliar, banished fear of the moment, replaced the unknown with certainty of pain. He wasn't worrying about that night, but his bare hands my bones, but I would survive. And then I feel like that's good. I wanted this to be really, really, really short. So that's a nice transition to hold on. But we would survive. Um, you know, it I don't want to say killed. Um, it Dismembered. But I don't even like that. Disemboweled. Disemboweled. My brother 2 years later. Um, and then would you hear um, oh, I heard the moan in my dreams the night before. We found his body, half beneath the stairs, the porch steps. Of the old, I don't know, Baxter house. I'm just following whatever threads are popping into my head. Uh, because I still haven't decided what it is. What is the moan? Where is it coming from? And maybe it's trying to mislead them. So there's a house, and it leaves the body at a house, and people think, "Ooh, it's the haunted house." Um, that's something that I could also work in at the beginning. Where is the moan coming from? Half beneath the porch steps of the old Baxter house. If only for a time. Um, I mean, we could go really like, oh, they never found my sister's head. I mean, that's pretty dark. Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable to write it because I generally don't write such dark things. I usually try to keep things a bit lighter and more fun. It's been so long since I've written any sort of scary horror type stuff. They never found my sister's head. Um, or either of her feet. The rest hung in a tree outside the old rail yard with a dozen others. Again, I'm just exploring threads in my mind. Uh, is this some kind of demon? Is it some unknown force? Is it only targeting this character, or is it targeting other characters? I think that's a creepy image. A body with no feet. I'm thinking about the who's the author? I'm thinking of the Shrike. The Shrike comes from Hyperion, Endymion, Fall of Hyperion. Um, I always forget his name. Simmons. Simmons? Dan Simmons. Yes. Okay. Dan Simmons. Um, Tree of the Shrike. Yeah, that's kind of. I mean, that's kind of a really crazy image of the strike. That seems that seems to be a bit much. The Shrike is the Lord of Pain. And he has a tree. He has this sort of spiked tree with bodies like impaled on it and they're still alive. And that's an image that kind of sticks with you. I think they also used that in the movie 300, The Spartans. Maybe. I've seen it. I've seen it in a couple of different places. And I think there's something to that. It makes you think of the crucifixion of Christ, being nailed to a cross, being stuck into a tree. There's this resonance of pain. So having a body in a tree kind of evokes, echoes that. And then it's a question of adding others or not. Um, and then something simple. Um, the moan crept into my dreams. So probably take the moan. I can't type. Window. I heard the moan outside my window the night before we found his body, half beneath the porch steps of the old Baxter house. The never or either of her feet. The rest hung. Instead of feet, or any of her organs. I mean, I could get really nasty with it. She could not have bones. She could be drained of blood, but that's not as that's not as creepy, I don't think. Blood is creepy. Blood is uncomfortable. We're wired that if we see blood, that it evokes very specific feelings. If it's our own blood, some people go so far as to faint. If it's another person's blood, it could make you sick, or it could make you feel this kind of uh, adrenaline rush. Oh, they're hurt. Attack now while they're hurt. So blood would give us a feeling that I want us to feel. Um, or maybe she's hung up by her organs. I mean, you know, dark. Um, so maybe not any of her organs. Maybe no bones. The rest hung in a tree outside the old rail yard. Uh, I don't want to get. I was thinking, oh, how disgusting would it be if she was literally like tied to the tree with her own intestines? That's pretty gross. And then there's a bow. The bow, though, feels wrong. There's a bow. It's a present. Ha ha ha. That seems like something uh the trademark of a serial killer. That doesn't feel like something a monster would do. That's the wrong feeling for this. The moon crept into my dreams every night. I was going to say every night until last night. Until last night. And then I'm thinking it's a countdown. Um, I thought I was safe when I awoke. But you see, it was a countdown. Let's go. Let's go. I couldn't. I couldn't see where I was. I mean, now I've got C and C. Because it had removed my eyes. I don't know where I'm going with this, but the idea that it removed the eyes, um, there wasn't any pain. That was the worst part. That was the worst part. There wasn't any pain, which only made it worse. Not feeling anything as it. Where were all those words that I had? Chewed, chomped. Um, as it. Uh, no, not feeling anything. Only hearing. Keep it focused on sounds. I keep going to the wrong spot. I keep going way too high up. I'm trying to look at these words. This would be good to put these here. Something fun might also be to play with the sounds, hear them throughout the story or at the beginning, then repeat them at the end. Some kind of repetition. Repetition. Repetition is such a part of horror stories. Um, Bloody Mary, you say it 3 times, and then she appears in your mirror. Candyman, Beetlejuice. You have that repetition. Um, what's another good example of repetition? I was thinking of. I was kind of thinking about like a song. I mean, in the God, was it? I mean, the original one of the Friday the 13th movies. You know, there's a song. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Maybe it was in a bunch of them. that's a kind of repetition, that song. Um, there's always some clue that the killer's coming. You hear something, you see something. There's that kind of repetition throughout. But definitely the sound of it. So I could, as I did the rewrite, I could just focus entirely on sounds and not really worry about other sensory details, because I could let's see, I could focus entirely on sound. Um, remembering the moan, only the sound is important. Um, this could be at the beginning um, because he's telling himself the story, telling us the story at the end of his life as he's being eaten by the creature, which he can't see. He can only hear. There's only noise, there's only sound. So in that moment, the physical sensations aren't important. So as he's telling the story, or maybe they're even more important because he's telling the story. But no, that's not the angle I want. He's numb. He can't feel anything. He can't actually feel his body, and he can't see anything because his eyes have been removed. All he can do is hear that sound. And then so you could have echo. You could have the echo of, oh, that room was so dark, but now things are truly dark. That's if I want to remove his eyes. I don't know if that's um, echoes. Dark at the beginning, dark at the end, without eyes. I don't know if I want him to not have eyes. That feels too convenient. Like, oh, the brother was disemboweled, the sister's head was cut off, but like it's eating this guy, like, and he can't see it, he can only hear it. Um, there could also be sensory details connected to each of these deaths. This one could be about smell, maybe. This one could be about like really seeing something horrible. Uh, and then his could be about the sounds. What's the monkeys? See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. That's another option. It's fun to play around with the symbology. I hope you enjoyed that video. Look in the description down below. There's a lot more that you can find. My blog, my self-published novel. I have a stream on Twitch, and there are a lot of other YouTube videos. From the Height of a Mind, I'm Mike.